Welcome back to Have You Heard? My name is Zoe. I'm the managing director and one of the co-founders here at The Social Shepherd. Today I'm joined by Millie. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Millie. I'm a social media manager here. And yeah, I'm joining you today.
Fabulous. So we've been asked to discuss career progression. How do you get into social media? What kind of skills do you need? All of that stuff, basically. So I think it'd be good if we can kind of start with, what's your career path been into social?
Well, I started out pretty young. Like I came straight into this from uni. We did even the same course at Bath Spa. So yeah, I started out doing media comms. Ended up having like just a module that needed some work experience. So yeah, I was hounding you and Jack. And then, yeah, it all sort of got postponed with COVID. But yeah, carried on pestering. And then, yeah, basically started on as an intern. And yeah, just stuck around really, didn't I?
But there's a little bit more detail in that story in the sense that you were very persistent. And I think, like, I can still remember it was our second office. There was like 5 of us working there, and you came in and had a coffee at Boston Tea Party with myself and Izzy. And obviously that was supposed to be part of your formalized work placement, which then obviously didn't happen. And then you just continued pestering. And then throughout your final year of uni, you actually worked, was it like 1 or 2 days?
I think, 2 days. And then when I went into third year, dropped down to just a day. And then, yeah, just carried on pestering until I got a job offer.
But I think that's a really good thing to do, because I did the same in my second and third year of uni, where I worked at a publishing company and I did their social media and digital marketing. And you put yourself in such a good position, because as soon as you've ended uni, you've already got practical experience.
Yeah, I think it was like probably like the best thing that I did. And I think that module is probably like the module that I think it's the best module I had at uni the whole time. Because yeah, I was able to really make it into what I needed it to be. And I think uni is great, but sometimes the module choice doesn't actually necessarily go into what you're interested in. I know a lot of mine was sort of more like sort of journalism based at times, and that's not really what I wanted to go into. And so yeah, that module meant that I could actually go into sort of social media side of things. And yeah, get the experience that I needed out of uni.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you mind me asking, how old are you again?
22.
So you're 22, you're a manager already.
Yeah.
That's really, really quick career progression. And so I guess, what do you think, you came in straight out of uni, so you were 21?
Yeah.
Whenever you started here. You've been here for 2 years as a full-time employee, is it?
I must have been probably 20 when I first started, I think.
Yeah. So how have you found, like, coming in as an exec and then up to manager? Like, what do you think have been the main things that have enabled you to progress so quickly?
I think it's like, I'm one of those people, I think when I started out was a lot more shy than I am now. And like, I was one of those people that was a bit scared to like ask a lot of questions and sort of look silly. But I think I managed to get myself to a place where I know that that's like a strength, and like, I'm not afraid to ask like a million questions that I think are maybe a bit silly. And I think it's just like having that confidence to be like, admit when you don't know something is like the biggest thing, because then you're going to have people sitting down. And I think that's what I've loved about here, is there's so many people that have so much pockets of knowledge that they can then help you out with. So I think it's just, surrounding yourself with people that are constantly able to give you that insight and their experience, I guess.
Nice. And I guess obviously you have people that report into you now because you're a manager. So what would you kind of say to them would be like a piece of advice that you would give an exec whenever they first start or something?
I think it is probably just like ask as many questions as you can. Like spend time with as many different people in like your workplace as you can. Because you'll just end up being sort of a sponge, even if you just sit somewhere else for a day in the office. Like, you will just hear so much information. And I think also there's so many resources that you can tap into, and like, subscribing to newsletters even and things like that is just, just surround yourself in information, I think, is the main thing.
Nice.
But obviously I came in sort of straight out from uni, but I know that you had like sort of more industry sort of experience before this. So how was your journey into where you are now?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so I mean, I like pretty similar to yourself in the sense like we have had quite a similar path. I did an internship in my final year of uni that I found through my university like career portal. So I'd always like, you know, suggest that anyone that is taking the university path to kind of look at that. But I did that, and then I got weirdly enough, I actually worked for Jack's old events company for like 3 months post uni, and we like traveled around the UK doing student events, which was exhausting.
Must be fun though as well.
I mean, driving for like 5 hours up to Edinburgh and then back to like Newcastle in a van with like 200 hoodies in the back that say Big Bar Crawl on them. That I'm not sure that was quite fun, but no, it gave me a lot of experience. And then whilst I was doing that, I was interviewing for a job when I knew that that was kind of going to end. So I got a job at a marketing agency in Bristol, and I was actually on their new business team. So I was a marketing exec doing marketing for the agency. And I think probably quite similarly to yourself, I was in a really lucky position because I was the only junior in that team, and I was surrounded by really senior people. And so I got exposure to, I think, the commercial director at the time, who had actually just sold the business to a larger group, and so got loads of like knowledge and like was a bit of a sponge and soaked all of that up, and had like a really good relationship, and we still keep in contact on LinkedIn every now and again. And I also had worked directly with the managing director at the time, who now works for like one of the biggest agencies in the world, to be entirely honest. And she was just so lovely. It was like such a mentor to me, and we still keep in contact too. But I think just the proactiveness, and that situation was relatively unique because you would more traditionally go into like an account manager role or like, you know, a client facing role, but that isn't quite the route that I took. And to be honest, when I interviewed for it, I had no knowledge of how an agency was structured. So when it said marketing exec, I thought I was actually going to be doing marketing for clients. And then I came in, they're like, you market the agency. And I was like, oh, I'm confused. But it went really well. And then I left there and I went to an independent media agency. So they're quite a big agency as well. And I was a strategic planner there. Did a lot of like work on like TV, and that was really like my first, you know, exposure to client management and stuff. And then when I was there, obviously that's kind of 6 months into that, that's when Jack and I decided to start the business. So I think I was lucky in the experience that I had. And I guess one thing I actually did leave out there was that when I was at my first agency, they paid for me to do a postgraduate degree. And like, whilst that was so kind and lovely of them, I did not learn a single thing throughout that process.
I think there's only like so much you can learn, isn't there? Like I think uni is great for sort of teaching you some like key skills, and like I think giving you like a bit of discipline, like, and like you learn to want to learn. But there's only so much that you can learn in a book and seminars and things like that.
I think uni's great in the sense, and like we're doing a lot of work with a lot of universities at the minute, but I think you can get the same level of experience if you're proactive. But what I think uni does give you is it teaches you your soft skills. So it teaches you how to meet a deadline. It teaches you how to communicate effectively via email. It teaches you to turn up on time, to manage your time more effectively. So it gives you like the soft skills in terms of like, you know, learning how to interact with people that you've never met before. And so provided that you like really, you know, you actually turn up to uni, which to be honest, I didn't turn up a lot of the time, but particularly in my first year, like that's what you kind of learn from that. There are a lot of courses now which do more practical stuff, but like personally, I think you're going to learn more when you get into the industry. And I think anyway, whenever you're interviewing for exec roles, which would be entry level, really what people are looking for is a positive attitude and initiative. So I think uni is great for some people that maybe aren't quite ready to go into a working environment, and obviously there's courses like law degrees and stuff, which are going to be slightly different. But from a marketing perspective, I think it more so depends on like what type of person you are and how your soft skills have developed at that point in time. And yeah, like I said earlier, my postgraduate, I did not learn a single thing. Like the only thing it gave me was a piece of paper. I didn't get taught any sort of like practical skills. And I guess you wouldn't be getting taught that once you've done a bachelor's degree already. It's much more about writing and research and stuff, which plenty of people enjoy, but I'm much more like a learn by doing type person. So it might be right for some people. And I know Jack, for example, he's like, I'm gonna do like an MBE or something in like 10 years time. And I think it's dependent on what you want to do at that stage in life. But
Yeah.
I don't think uni is necessary. If
Yeah,
that
but
makes
I think
sense.
at the same time, I think marketing courses are getting better at
Yeah.
realizing that you need to have the real life experience. And yeah, it sounded like when I was leaving that there was already sort of plans to like make the course more practical and more like industry based. So yeah, maybe it will just become better. But yeah, from my experience, I think it was, the soft skills, like you say.
Do you think you'd be where you are today had you not gone to uni?
To be fair, personally, probably not. I think uni was massive for my confidence. I think, like you say, like talking to people you haven't met before, I wouldn't have been able to sort of just go on a client call and talk to a client if I probably came straight from not going to uni. But yeah, I don't think I would have had the confidence to pester you and things like that if I hadn't gone to uni and like been thrown into that sort of environment.
Would you ever want to work for a client side instead of agency side?
I think I see myself very agency based at the time being. I don't know. I feel like I love being surrounded by so many different people. And I think sort of everyone has their own experience, but then everyone has also worked on lots of other different clients. And so it's like a constant source of creativity. I think it's so easy to like just have a day where you're like, oh, I can't think of something. And obviously you work on your clients for, a long-term basis, but it's nice to be able to like go to someone else that might have had a similar industry-based client and say like, oh, have you got any ideas for this? And like just ask someone, and there's always someone that you can bounce off of, which I really like. But yeah, I don't know. Do you like the idea of like any sort of in-house side things?
It's interesting because I know like a lot of agencies do like an in-house, out-of-house model where they will basically employ the people that work in the client's marketing team and they just place them in their office, but they manage them, if that makes sense. I've seen some agencies do that. I would work client side, but it would have to be like a brand and a business that like really resonated with me personally. I think I love the craft, which is why agency works for me. But I would do it. I mean, there's no plans obviously to do that anytime soon, but I think people always say, and I guess this might not be like a popular opinion, but people do tend to say that it's easier to go from agency side to client side than it is to go from client side to agency side. And I guess that's just because of the skills of juggling multiple brands and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I think there's pros and cons for both. And I asked, we had a client come into the office the other week who had just jumped from agency to client, and I was like, oh, how have you found the move? And they were like, oh, it's so much better. There's less work to do. Like, I don't think that's necessarily
pace,
true, but potentially slower pace, but like just different, if that makes sense. And I was like, oh, don't say that around the team. But like, I think there's pros and cons of both, and I think at different stages of life different things will suit, and there will be extortionately intense and pressurized times client side just as much as there are agency side. So I think it just depends on what you kind of want, if that makes sense.
It's the nature of it, isn't it?
It is indeed. So I guess what kind of skills do we think are the most important for people trying to get into social media at this point in time?
I guess I sound like I'm repeating myself, but like a willingness to learn. And I think just, if that goes out sort of like, we've spoken about courses and things like that. And there's so many free courses that you can do. I imagine you've done quite a few. Is there any that you like recommend?
Do you know, I'm quite bad actually. I've done a few like a while back, and I probably need to refresh them actually. But there's like, obviously you've got like your Facebook blueprints, and TikTok has an academy and stuff like that you can do. But at the core of it, I think one thing that social is like a subsidiary of digital as a whole. And so I think the Google courses that you can do, like Google Digital Garage, and just like the basic learning and like understanding, you know, what's like last click attribution versus all of that. No matter where you work in social, being able to understand like how you measure effectiveness and results and just like digital 101 is really, really valuable. So I'd always suggest people to kind of like focus on that, because sometimes people get confused and sometimes people think working in social is just like, oh, you go and film TikToks every single day and then you just publish them, and like we've got very separate departments that are really honed in on different skills. So I think understand what working in social is first. Like you're not just going to be like walking around taking cute lifestyle pictures.
So much of it is looking at data and like understanding the data. You don't want to just be doing the same thing every day and just, you know, doing whatever trend you see. You want to make sure that, you know, it fits for your audience. But yeah, reports, who would have thought?
Cool. I think we've probably set the world straight in terms of what you need to do to get a career in social. But I think like to end it, to me, it is like attitude and mindset over skill set. Like we can teach the skill set, but we can't teach you to have like, if you've got a poopy attitude, then you kind of need to address that before you go anywhere, to be honest, not just in social. Cool. Well,
thanks for having me.
Thanks for your time, Millie. And thanks for listening if you've made it to the end of this podcast. Bye.